West Africa has always been a region of powerful kingdoms, vibrant cultures, and rich resources. Long before European colonization, empires such as Ghana, Mali, and Songhai thrived on gold and trans-Saharan trade, but by the late 1800s nearly the entire region had fallen under European control. This is the story of how it happened. In the mid-1400s, Portuguese sailors arrived on the coast of West Africa. At first their interest was in gold, ivory, and pepper. The Portuguese built trading posts along what is now Senegal, Gambia, and Ghana. Soon other Europeans followed: the Dutch, the British, the French, and the Spanish. By the 1500s, the demand for enslaved labor in the Americas turned West Africa into the main supplier of human beings for the Atlantic world. Millions of Africans were captured, sold, and shipped across the ocean. European merchants rarely captured slaves themselves. Instead, they relied on local rulers and middlemen. The Kingdom of Dahomey, located in modern-day Benin, became notorious for its large-scale participation. Its armies, often led by the famous all-female Amazon warriors, raided inland villages. The Oyo Empire in present-day Nigeria also grew wealthy from the trade, selling captives from wars and internal conflicts. Coastal groups such as the Efik in Calabar and the Fon people built entire economies around slave trading. Not every kingdom participated. Some resisted on moral or political grounds. Certain Islamic leaders in the Sahel condemned the trade of fellow Muslims. Others feared that dependence on European goods, such as guns and alcohol, would weaken their societies. Still, the demand for slaves was so great that resistance was often crushed or ignored. By the early 1800s, the Atlantic slave trade began to decline as Britain and other nations abolished it. But this did not end European involvement in West Africa. Instead, the focus shifted. Europeans wanted palm oil for their factories, gold for their banks, and new markets for their manufactured goods. But as the Industrial Revolution strengthened Europe, and as rival empires competed for influence, the scramble for Africa began. The turning point came at the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, where European powers, without a single African present, divided the continent into zones of control. West Africa was one of the main prizes. Senegal was among the earliest colonies. France established control in the mid-1800s, using the port of Dakar as a base for its growing empire. Gambia, a thin strip of land surrounding the Gambia River, was claimed by Britain, largely to prevent French expansion. Sierra Leone was created by Britain as a settlement for freed slaves, many of them black loyalists from the American Revolution. But it quickly became a crown colony, with British governors controlling trade and politics. Liberia was different. It was founded in the 1820s by freed African Americans through the American Colonization Society. While technically independent, Liberia was heavily influenced by the United States and surrounded by European colonies. Ghana, then called the Gold Coast, was rich in gold and cocoa. Britain slowly expanded control there, defeating the powerful Ashanti Empire after a series of brutal wars throughout the 1800s. Nigeria was perhaps Britain's greatest prize in West Africa. Through treaties, military conquest, and alliances, Britain took over both the north and south. The Sokoto Caliphate, one of the largest Islamic states in Africa, resisted but fell in 1903 after the British brought Maxim guns and modern artillery. Benin, Togo, Ivory Coast, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Senegal all became part of French West Africa, a federation run from Dakar. France used the policy of assimilation, attempting to make Africans into Frenchmen, though in reality, they remained subjects with few rights. Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde were taken by Portugal, while Togo first fell to Germany before being split between Britain and France after World War I. Colonization was never smooth. Across West Africa, leaders and kingdoms fought fiercely to defend their lands. The Ashanti Empire in Ghana fought the British in 5 separate wars, known as the Anglo-Ashanti Wars. The great Muslim leader Samori Touré built an empire across modern Guinea, Mali, and Ivory Coast. From 1882 to 1898, he fought a long guerrilla war against French forces, before being captured. The Fula Jihad states in present-day Senegal and Guinea fought both the French and rival African groups. Leaders like Al-Hajj Umar Tall waged wars of resistance until their deaths. But resistance had limits. European weapons, especially the machine gun, proved devastating. African armies, however brave, could not withstand the industrial firepower of Europe. Just as important as resistance was collaboration. Some African rulers allied with Europeans, seeing them as a way to gain advantage over rivals. The Fonte Confederacy in Ghana sought British protection against the Ashanti. Yoruba states such as Ibadan and Ijebu sometimes allied with Britain during internal wars. This strategy bought time for some rulers, but in the end, most were betrayed. European powers rarely honored treaties once they had military superiority. By the early 1900s, the map of West Africa had been redrawn. Ancient kingdoms were dismantled. Traditional rulers lost authority, though some were kept as colonial chiefs under indirect rule. Colonial borders often ignored ethnic, linguistic, and cultural realities. Economically, colonies were reorganized to serve Europe. Culturally, colonization left deep scars but also sparked new forms of resistance. Missionary schools produced African intellectuals who would later lead independence movements in the 20th century. West Africa's colonization was not a single event but a centuries-long process, beginning with trade, growing through slavery, and culminating in conquest. Some kingdoms sold captives, others resisted to the bitter end, and many were caught in between. By the dawn of the 20th century, nearly all of West Africa was under European rule. But the memory of empires like the Ashanti, Dahomey, and Sokoto, and the stories of leaders who resisted, remained alive, fueling the struggles for independence that would come decades later.